Hello, everyone. Today, I am very honored to have this esteemed panel to talk about AI global AI ecosystems. We have four very different, luminaries from various space. We have Theo from Insight, and we have Homet from TIM, and we have Christy. She's from the Esper AI, and then we have ITU. Frederick. So I mean, in a one sentence, maybe introduce yourself, us about your world and your impact with AI startups. Just a quick introduction.
Theos Evgeny, professor at INSEAD, working on AI since the mid-90s after being in MIT, teaching executive education on AI, where we have a couple of thousand executives coming by at INSEAD globally, and also co-founder of EURX.ai, EURX.ai, with a mission of supporting European innovation out of research labs.
So I'm Helmut, Vice President of TUM and founder of Unternehmertum, the largest European entrepreneurship center, and we are founding about 2 to 3 companies per week.
That's nice. I'm Kirsty Tan. I work with Andrew Ng. We started a new company called AI Aspire. How it came about was that we realized that the industries really need a lot of upskilling and reskilling, so we're here with a mission to change the world.
Hi, and I'm Fred Werner from the ITU. That's the United Nations Specialized Agency for Digital Technologies. And I'm also the lead for the AI for Good platform and Global Summit. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, just like a thing, inflections and intelligence, AI used to be just about technology. Now it's basically changing the entire world. So in your point of view, when we talk about scaling AI, especially from our perspective, what layer you think the most important? So maybe start with Frederick.
Yeah, thanks. So I've been doing AI for Good since 2017, and that's basically an eternity in terms of AI years. And we've really seen it go from promising use cases to real solutions that affect real lives here and now, today. If you go to our summit, you'll see how brain-computer interface technologies can help people with severe disabilities to walk, to move, to communicate. We have solutions for affordable healthcare, for education for all, for food security, disaster management, and we've really seen the evolution go from, let's say, traditional machine learning to the advent of generative AI. Last year, the catchword was the rise of the AI agents, but also the physical manifestation of AI in the form of robotics, embodied AI, autonomous driving, BCI, and now even space computing. But how do we know these high potential applications work equally well on men or women, or children, or the elderly, people with different skin colors, persons with disabilities, or across 50 African countries with thousands of languages, and where basic challenges like 5G, access to data, even electricity are real concerns. So these are not natural reflexes for the fast-moving tech industry. I think the track record so far has been, let's build it, and we'll fix it later. But these are things that we think deeply about of the AI for Good community. So simply put, the goal of AI for Good is to unlock AI's potential to serve humanity. Thank you.
I'll take a different perspective to it. I'll take it from the enterprise perspective. Also, over the last few years, so much focus has been on technology, platform, point solutions, and whatnot. And last year, the senior management started to realize just by implementing point solutions are not going to help them in connecting the organization end to end, which is from the beginning to the end process. So, the impact, the business impact wasn't as great as what AI had promised, according to them. So what we have decided is we decided to go in from a different perspective. If you look at a company, we would say people, process, platform. So instead of just focusing on platform, which is the technology side of it, we started to focus on people, on change management. So change management, meaning the entire organization, is actually a business transformation through AI, and we would like to train people, giving them the tool, AI tool, from the board members to C-suite, to executives, and down to receptionists and people on the floor. So that is the entire change management process that we're advocating. It's easier nowadays to create an app. So for them to change the company, we were asking them, or we actually would like to train them to build from within, to make changes from within.
So when you say change management, do you mean more around the change of processes, adapting an AI tool, or more of a cultural, from a human-centered perspective, how to work with AI?
Yeah. It's actually both. I think any change is an attitude. It's not just, it's not just a skill set. It's the attitude of, I understand it, I know it, I can do it, and therefore I will implement it according with my colleagues as such. Nowadays it's easier, and I'm sure you've heard of vibe coding as such. So it's easier for any employees to come up with ideas for how to redesign the workflow, for example, and make it better. So there are two types of changing in terms of workflow. There are the incremental change in workflows, which we've seen a lot, what we call point solutions here and there. But what we're advocating is to be bolder, for executives to be really bold and redesign your entire workflow. Not just workflow, but redesign your entire industry and be the leader in your industry and be a tech leader in your industry. That is something that we want to take on as a challenge, and we take one industry at a time.
Amazing perspective. What's your take?
Yeah, so actually I love your thinking, and how we apply it actually is within the ecosystem. So we represent the Southern German ecosystem, and this is a really strong industrial ecosystem with very large players like Siemens, BMW, or the Schwarz Group. And so they are part of our ecosystem, and they actually also build these training institutions together with us. So for example, the Schwarz Group in Heilbronn has now the EPI. It's a huge facility where we train thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, have own institutions like Applied AI, where we bring the technology, the platform ideas, exactly what Christy was saying, into the corporate partners, but then also bring it back to university, train our people in university, but also in industry, and apply all the different applications. And this works very well, but it's, as you said, Christy, you really, on one side, understand that the technology have this platform thinking, but then also have the people with you, the decision makers, the owners of the companies, the top management, but also then all the people in all hierarchies.
I can vouch for a perspective. I actually visit Mercedes, the factory. They actually put the engineering office in the middle of the factory so they can observe. So I think kind of speak to your sense of how to mirror the human perspective and the design perspective.
And then once you do this, for example, at Mercedes in one factory, then you also have the chance to really scale it globally, because companies like Mercedes have factories all over the world, in the US, in China, everywhere. And so this is the way how you scale. Then from a regional perspective, really with these multi-global international companies, really have a global reach.
Amazing. Theos, what do you think?
Yeah, thanks. Lots of great points, and I agree with, of course, all of them. First of all, success in quotes means that somehow the technology disappears also almost in an organization. The culture change, the way we work, the way we interact, the way we innovate, the way we do everything. Yeah. Culture change is the ultimate kind of adoption of a technology in some sense. Now, of course, in the process, we know this before, where there is plenty of work on about how the value was created from the Industrial Revolution technologies, mechanization of coal mines in Britain or whatever at the beginning of the last century, also from internet computers, the famous Solow IT productivity paradox from the mid-90s, Bob Solow, the Nobel Prize winners in economics. And we know the value comes, of course, when you have, at the same time as you adopt technology, new technology, you also change processes, you change, incentives, business units, partners, whatever, all that stuff. Not just change management in terms of mindset, but also in terms of actual organization. That's the first thing. Second thing is, we're doing a very nice project these days at INSEAD with entity data about the impact of AI on the IT services sector, specifically on the organization and how you hire, how you develop people, what roles, how it looks like. And we're looking at this, different layers. Let's say the local layer is the impact of IT on tasks/jobs, but that's kind of very local. Then you have to look at the workflows, as Chrissy said. But eventually, you also have to look at like, eventually, what's the value proposition? Will it change the value proposition of entity data, for example, of IT services? Because if the value proposition changes, everything changes,
Right.
including the business model, of course, not the value proposition. So you have this classic organization change of today's company, but you also have the potential business model transformation,
Yep.
which is a bit disruptive. That's second point. Third point is, and I think that's probably, in my view, the most exciting part. In many ways, we are probably in day zero of the AI revolution, if you want to call it this way. Because what's coming next? At the end of the day, we only did a chatbot, right? What a big deal. I mean, with all this drama, what's the point? What's exciting is when we see AI plus science plus physical AI, robotics, manufacturing. Right? That's exciting. That's like, call it the next industrial revolution, call it the next scientific revolution, whatever it is. But we know one thing. If you look at the GDP average GDP per capita for the past 2,000 years, 2,000 something years, it was more or less flat for 1,800 years. And I'm sure you go further, it was the same. And then it goes like exponential after the scientific revolution. What happens next is a good question, and that's what I think is most exciting, and we're day zero.
That's exactly my point for my next question. You're also an AI founder, right? So back to startup perspective, what are some of the challenges you think, great, the enterprise, we have to start dealing with process change. But for startups, there are, they're inventing things, and some people, they are, victim of the, big tech, and they invent something and they disappear next day. There are certainly a lot of challenges AI startup been facing nowadays, and I'm curious from your perspective, what have you experienced, what have you seen, and how can people overcome that challenges? Start with
We'll go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question, and thanks a lot. Again, different organizations, small startups, SMEs, large, not the same, in different sectors, or depends on the sector. But to begin with, the basics are always the basics. Product is product, and product means, the word product is misleading. Product is when you have a product market fit. Until then, it's not a product. In a sense, product market fit is a misleading term because there is no product unless there's a market, right? By definition. So getting getting your product market fit is always the first thing. Go to market and scale, of course, and make sure you create value for your customers is always there. Now, yes, in some cases, vibe coding or variation can help you, but in other cases, you have manufacturing and physical stuff and physical processes, which you go to pharma, it's even probably slower. So I think if I go back to the industrial/scientific revolution in quotes, coming potentially, we should be prepared for this. Maybe not, maybe yes, but at least it's a scenario. There the biggest transition is to go from science to product to scale. Yeah. Time to product, time to market, time to scale will be the determining factors that will define how the world will look like a few years from now. When I say a few, I mean 10 years. How Europe, US versus China, and versus the rest of the world will look like will be determined by those three factors, and we have to make sure that those three factors are fast.
the design just right for the market, not for the science. Great. What about you?
So our approach is to use the university as this experimentation room for that. And so we have all the industry players, even on campus. For example, SAP has a huge research site with thousands of engineers, SAP Labs it's called. So it's really at the campus, it's similar like what is in Palo Alto with Stanford, so all the companies around and people come and go. And so the students are also in this flow of information, so what are the real problems of these industry players? And then they start to experiment. And the great thing about universities is that the students are not on a payroll, okay? So basically they cost nothing. And so they experiment, and maybe they write their master thesis on the topic, and they get a good grade, and maybe it doesn't work out, but in like every 10th case, it becomes a really great company. And this is how we produce this incredible flow of companies. So every week, 2 to 3 new companies, and so we outperform whole countries. So my center produces more tech companies like countries like Austria, for example.
I think I like to take a little bit different perspective in that AI this is the best time for any entrepreneurs to start businesses. It's what we call AI-enabled business, AI-enabled, AI-led entrepreneurship. Just imagine you can you learn about AI, you learn how to code, and you can start a business relatively quick, fast, fast as well as useful, impactful, that is solving either world problems, company problems, your personal problems, creating games for your children, whatever that may be, it is possible. So what we're trying to say to people is learn as much about AI as possible, learn coding, learn whatever that you can, and try to be an entrepreneur of yourself, whether that be for your family, for your company. But this is no better time to start doing it.
Right.
And I would like to encourage everybody to learn how to code.
Your point leads to my next question, but I'm going to let Frederick answer this question first. And you're speaking for the United Nations, so your perspective got to be broader.
Yes, exactly. So the AI for Good Global Summit, it's the United Nations platform for AI with 50 plus agencies as partners. And as part of that program, we have what we call the Innovation Factory. So this is a year-long AI startup pitching competition where any startup that's using AI in an innovative way to help address global challenges like healthcare, education, climate change, what have you, they can apply. They pitch in front of a jury of mentors and judges. This happens all year long, virtually in different parts of the world, and the grand finale is at the summit. But to the point, this is a great way of identifying practical applications of AI to solve global challenges that have the potential to be scaled. And just as an example, one of our finalists last year was a startup from Estonia. And basically, this startup is able to use AI on a phone to detect how much sugar is in your blood by the sound of your voice. So as you know, diabetes is a global killer, right? It's very expensive. You have blood monitoring devices and pricks and needles. It's a huge inconvenience. So this could be a real game changer for the disease. But also, if that device can tell how much blood is in your sugar, how much sugar is in your blood, what else can it tell about you? What did you do last night? Were you drinking? Are you lying? Are you tired? Are you paying attention? Actually, are you paying attention? So it's just because AI could do something doesn't mean it should do something. So part of that innovation factory is also making sure that when these startups, which are basically working at warp speed, I mean, AI is a moving target, that we're also thinking about when we're making these solutions, you know, are they inclusive? Is there open and equitable access? Are they ethical? Are they safe? Could they actually work beyond a high-tech lab in a developed country? Could it work across 50-plus African countries with all those challenges? So again, those are not natural reflexes, but by going through that innovation factory, not only do they get the exposure and we identify great solutions, but then we start to discuss how to scale those solutions internationally. And then, of course, you have a whole range of bottlenecks like infrastructure, cloud, connectivity, compute, access to data, and then we could do a whole nother panel on that. But just to say that, sorry. Yeah.
You will.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, it's just to say it's really important to make sure that AI for good thinking is sort of baked in at the beginning, and we don't use a Band-Aid approach to fix it afterwards.
Right. I just want you maybe address, and that's my next question too. If you can notice that all of us come from different country, we live in different continent. For each startup, from the innovation culture, not just from the ecosystem, also itself within, from the individual to academia, all the layer, there are different regulation, just different minded thinking, the willing to take risks. They're all different layer, all speak for who we are, where we come from. So just think about your perspective, or you have seen from a global AI perspective, you know, obviously Silicon Valley is more risk-taking, European, we have a more thoughtful approach. From your point of view, like from scaling perspective, you know, for AI startup, what would be the biggest challenge and how you seeing people have success? Why don't you start with Christy, and then we'll go to the gentlemen's.
So I'm from Silicon Valley. I feel that we've been very fortunate to be in that space. Wherever we turn, there is a brain, a genius next to me. It is an incredible space to be in. So I would say it's very unusual because it's highly concentrated in one space in Silicon Valley. That's not to say the other countries or the other states don't have that concentration, but I think Silicon Valley stands out. So I work around the world quite a bit over the last decades, and but I've never seen anything like that. So I think we would, as much as the knowledge is concentrated there, the knowledge can be shared as well. And speaking, if I was to represent the US, and I'm just will be so bold to say that it is too concentrated in the US. We would like to share the knowledge. We feel like Europe, Middle East, Asia have a lot to offer as well. There have been a lot of hyperscalers are based in the US, but we would like to, especially from where Andrew and I sit, we would like to see the world to benefit from the knowledge, but also to share that knowledge amongst the world's population. So that's something that we would like to share, and we're very passionate about that, despite being in Silicon Valley.
Right. Okay, go to the gentleman, and we'll 2 sentences.
Yeah, so we had the advantage that we are academics and professors, and so that's a global game. So for example, our best partners are Stanford and, for example, NUS in Singapore, and our students are also totally global. So if I look at my students at TUM, we have 40% international students. So they come basically from everywhere, and we send them everywhere basically. And so they are the best bridge builders. They look at the opportunities, absorb them, and build great companies. And then maybe their first office in Singapore, maybe in Palo Alto, maybe in Munich, we will see. But these are really global people, okay? And they see the technologies, they see the opportunities, the customers, and then they combine it. That's good that we have this next generation of people.
Absolutely.
I think INSEAD is probably the most international organization after the United Nations. You mentioned 40% international. There is no nationality at INSEAD more than 10%. No, none. We have across everything. And I'm very fortunate to be there also on the executive side, as I said, because you see executives coming from all over the world. One week I may have the CEO and the C-suite of a Chinese company, public company, next week the European, next week a Brazilian, next week American, whatever, all over the world, literally, UAE. And I can share personal experience from a couple of thousand executives the past few years across the globe. Here is what I would highlight as the biggest differences. First, very different sense of urgency and very different levels of ambition. Some regions, China, UAE, US, amazing level of ambition, very intentional. Other regions, still not there. This will make a big difference. And I have a hypothesis that differences in ambitions and sense of urgency about technology today will define inequalities around the world tomorrow. So they're already defined now. That's the first thing. Second thing is that the sense of dealing with uncertainty, because it's very uncertain from all aspects, scientific, innovation, business, whatever, geopolitical, you name it. So cultures have to, again, big differences on how different cultures and different companies and different individuals, of course, manage uncertainty, experimentation, in very important for uncertainty, the risk-taking, risk attitudes, of course, ambiguity, understanding. These 2 elements, I think, are top of mind, and the inequality today across the world on those 2 elements, urgency, ambition, managing uncertainty, is already, I'm afraid, determining how the world will look like in the next 10 years.
Okay. Frederick, close it out for us.
Yes, I think ITU, being a UN agency, we have inclusivity and human rights as a part of our DNA.
Yeah.
And so whether we're looking at startup pitching competitions or our machine learning challenges, really making sure that the Global South is at the table and participating, not by accident, but, with intent and being deliberate about it is super important. And you do have, like you said, big differences in culture, especially when it comes to AI governance and how to handle the future of AI. You have many fast emerging governance frameworks from the US, from Europe, from China, different parts of the world. And even though there are some things in common and some sort of philosophical differences, I think because AI is moving so fast, we can't wait for that perfect solution to emerge. But also at the same time, at one point as these solutions emerge and in the form of businesses and products and solutions, a lot of the time we're going to have to work across borders. You're going to need standards to make them interoperable, to create interfaces. And the ITU standardization making process brings the Global South to the table as part of that DNA, right? And human rights and inclusivity and safety and everything.
Yeah.
So I think, like, while waiting for the holy grail of, a global AI governance framework, business is going to keep on going. And standards is a very practical way of taking these ambitious words and texts and implementing them in a way that can actually create market access, that can protect intellectual property, and can make solutions scale globally.
Okay. So I want two words of advice for startup. I'll start first. My advice will be bold, be adventurous. You, for advice to AI startups. Just two
Advice
words.
to AI startups.
Don't give me a sentence. Well, 2 words.
Be good and be inclusive.
Nice. Next.
Be curious and be resilient.
Perfect. Next.
Acquire customers.
Practical German practicality. Yes.
Team, keep listening to learn from the customers and the market.
Great. Well, thank you all. This has been an amazing panel. So thank you for joining us.